I was home alone. Everything was quiet until I heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps right above me. But there was just one problem. My house doesn't have an attic. I froze. My mind raced. Was I imagining it? But then, another step, and another, and closer, until I realized whatever was up there wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be a normal night, a quiet night. My parents had gone out for dinner, leaving me with the house to myself. No siblings, no interruptions, just a few hours of peace. Finally, I had planned everything out. I'd ordered takeout, picked a movie, and even grabbed a blanket to curl up on the couch. But the rain started pouring harder outside, the wind howling through the trees, making the house feel bigger and emptier. I kept my phone nearby, but the battery was already running low. Typical. And with the storm picking up, the Wi-Fi flickered in and out. Not ideal, but I wasn't too worried. At least, not yet. Before settling in, I did my usual routine. Locked the doors, double-checked the windows. Everything was shut. Everything was secure. But somehow, the silence of the house felt off. Like the walls were listening. Like something was waiting. And then, just as I grabbed my drink and sat down, I heard it. A faint thud from upstairs. I paused, straining to listen. Maybe something had shifted. Maybe the wind had knocked something over. That's what I told myself. But deep down I knew the sound had come from inside the house, and I wasn't alone. The sound wasn't loud, but it was deliberate. A dull, muffled thud, like something or someone was moving up there. I sat completely still, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. I told myself it was nothing. The wind, maybe? The old wooden beams shifting from the rain? But then it came again. A slow, dragging noise, and this time I knew I wasn't imagining it. I turned my head toward the ceiling, straining to listen. The rain lashed against the windows, thunder rumbled in the distance, but underneath it all, something else was there. A presence. Moving. I grabbed my phone, but the battery was nearly dead. 4%. No messages, no missed calls, no way to reach anyone if I needed to. I told myself to calm down. It was just an old house. Houses make noise. But as I stood up, something else caught my attention. A draft. A strange, unnatural cold creeping through the air. My skin prickled. I checked the windows again. Still locked. The doors bolted. But the air had changed. Like something had slipped in unnoticed. And then, the hallway light flickered. Just for a second. A quick, sharp buzz, then darkness. I sucked in a breath. The power wasn't out, just flickering. Like something was interfering with it. I swallowed hard, forcing a chuckle. "All right," I muttered under my breath. "It's just a coincidence." I reached for the light switch, flipping it off and back on. The bulb steadied. For now. I took a deep breath, convincing myself it was nothing. Just the storm messing with the wiring. Just my imagination playing tricks. And then I heard it again. Not from above this time, from the hallway. A slow creak, like a footstep. I turned sharply, eyes scanning the shadows. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wasn't sure if I was breathing anymore, and that's when I saw it. The front door. It was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I was certain. I had checked it, double-checked it, and yet there it was. The deadbolt slid back. The door slightly ajar. A shiver crawled down my spine. My mouth went dry. I stared at it, waiting, listening. Nothing. I stepped forward slowly, my heart hammering with every movement. Maybe the wind? Maybe I hadn't closed it all the way? Maybe. Then something moved. Not outside, inside. A shadow, just beyond the hallway. And in that moment I realized someone else was in the house with me. My breath caught in my throat. My eyes locked onto the door, unlatched, slightly ajar. The hallway beyond it stretched into a pit of darkness. I waited, hoping, praying that I was wrong. That my mind was making it up. But then, the footsteps came again. Not above me this time, not far away. Closer. Right there, just beyond the doorframe. I felt frozen in place, my body betraying me. Run, lock the door, do something. But I couldn't move, and then my phone screen lit up. An unknown number. I gasped, my hands shaking as I picked it up. The caller ID was blank. No name, no location. Just a glowing, buzzing number on my dimly lit screen. My thumb hovered over the answer button, my instincts screaming at me not to press it. But before I could decide, the call ended. The screen blinked off, plunging me back into the silent terror of the room. A cold sweat dripped down the back of my neck. My phone buzzed again. A message. But when I opened it, the screen glitched. Just a blank message. No sender, no text. I whispered to myself, trying to steady my breathing. Maybe it's just a prank, a wrong number? but I couldn't explain what happened next. The footsteps above me, those slow, deliberate steps, became louder, more confident, moving. They weren't just random sounds anymore. They had a pattern, like someone pacing, like they were waiting for something. And then, they stopped. Silence, so complete, so sudden, it made my ears ring. My stomach twisted into knots. I forced myself to take a step forward, closer to the unlocked door. The air was thick, heavy, pressing against my chest. And then my phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, a single word. Run. My pulse skyrocketed. My knees felt weak. I turned on my heels, moving back toward the living room, heart pounding in my ears. And then I heard it. The front door creaked open. No wind, no draft, just open. My hands shook as I slowly reached for the doorknob, my breath shallow. I had to see. I had to know. I nudged the door open an inch further. Nothing but darkness outside. The rain fell steadily, the streetlights flickering in the distance. No movement, no one there. But the air inside the house, it felt different. Wrong. Like something had just stepped in. My throat tightened. My mind raced. I could still hear the faint echo of those footsteps upstairs. I could still feel the weight of something unseen watching me. And then, clear as day, a whisper. Right behind me. Don't turn around. Every nerve in my body screamed to move, to run, to get out. But I was locked in place. My chest tightened, my skin crawled. The whisper was so close I could feel the breath against my ear. And then, something touched my shoulder. What would you do if you heard footsteps upstairs? But no one was home. The touch on my shoulder was light but undeniable. A single, cold fingertip, a barely there pressure, but enough to send every hair on my body standing straight up. I couldn't move. My breath was shallow, sharp. I wanted to turn around, to face whatever was behind me, but the words still echoed in my mind. Don't turn around. A voice that wasn't mine, a whisper too close, too real. And then, the lights went out. I stumbled back, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. My vision swam in the darkness. My breaths came in ragged gasps. I fumbled for my phone, gripping it like a lifeline. The screen flickered to life, casting a faint blue glow around me. The message was still there. Run. But my feet wouldn't move. My muscles locked, my instincts screamed. And then above me, the footsteps started again. Not slow anymore, not deliberate. They were moving, fast, darting from one side of the house to the other. Something, or someone, was running upstairs. And I knew then, I wasn't alone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I needed to see. I needed to know what was up there. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, gripping it tight like it was a weapon. My stomach churned as I made my way toward the stairs. Each step felt heavier, like something was pulling me back. The second floor was pitch black. The only light came from the faint beam of my flashlight, flickering against the walls. And then I saw it. The guest room door. Slightly open. I hadn't been in there all day, and yet the door was ajar, like someone had just stepped inside. I swallowed hard, my pulse roaring in my ears. I took a slow, hesitant step forward. The wooden floor beneath me groaned under my weight. A gust of cold air rushed past me, and suddenly, I swore I saw movement inside the room. A shadow, just beyond the doorway. My grip on the flashlight tightened. I stepped closer, the beam cutting through the darkness, revealing the edge of the bed, the empty chair by the window, the closet door, slightly cracked open, and then from inside the closet, a whisper. Come closer. Every instinct in my body told me to run, to turn around and leave the house. But I couldn't. I had to see, I had to know. My fingers trembled as I reached for the closet door, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The wood was ice cold under my touch. I hesitated, then slowly, painfully pushed it open. The door creaked as the darkness inside swallowed my flashlight beam. My eyes darted over the empty hangers, the old coat draped in the corner. Nothing. No one. But the whisper, it had been real. It had been right there. I stepped back, exhaling a shaky breath, and that's when I saw it. Not in the closet, not in front of me, in the mirror. My reflection stared back at me, but I wasn't alone. Behind me, just over my shoulder, was a figure, standing perfectly still, watching. And then, it smiled. The reflection in the mirror didn't make sense. It was me, but not just me. The figure behind me was tall, motionless, its presence looming, its face wrong. Hollow eyes, lips curled into a smile that didn't belong, a grin stretched too wide, too sharp. My stomach twisted in horror, my breath hitched, my mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. And then, it moved. The figure in the mirror leaned forward, closer to my reflection, but I didn't feel anything behind me. No presence, no movement, just my own paralyzed breath against the cold air. And then a slow, deliberate exhale, not mine. I felt it, right against my neck. A whisper of breath so cold it made my skin crawl. I spun around, nothing. The room was empty. But when I turned back to the mirror, the reflection was still there. And this time, it was looking right at me. Panic set in, my chest tightened. My instincts screamed at me to leave, now. I bolted out of the guest room, my heart hammering in my chest. My flashlight flickered wildly as I moved down the hallway, my footsteps pounding against the old wooden floors. And then, bang, a door slammed behind me. I spun around, my breath hitching. The guest room door shut, just like that. Like something or someone had locked themselves inside. I gripped the railing, forcing myself down the stairs 2 at a time. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I just needed to get out. But as soon as I reached the bottom, boom, boom, a deep, rattling bang came from below, the basement. I froze, my pulse roared in my ears. The basement door stood at the far end of the hallway, barely illuminated by the weak glow of my flashlight. The banging was relentless, violent. Something on the other side was trying to get out. And then, just as suddenly as it started, silence. The air was thick, suffocating. My fingers curled into my palms, my nails digging into my skin. I took a slow step forward, my heartbeat erratic, and then the basement door cracked open. A sliver of blackness peeked through, a darkness so complete it swallowed the dim light of the hallway. I swallowed hard. Every nerve in my body told me to run, to get out. But I couldn't look away. I had to know what was down there. My fingers twitched toward the doorknob, just a peek, just to prove to myself that there was nothing. The door flung open. Something yanked me inside. The world tilted. My flashlight flew from my hands, clattering against the concrete floor. The door behind me slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping me in darkness. I hit the ground hard, the cold seeping into my skin. My breath came in ragged gasps as I scrambled for my flashlight, my hands shaking. And then, the whispers started. All around me. Faint at first, like distant echoes in the dark, but growing, surrounding me. Words I couldn't understand, voices layered over each other. My flashlight flickered as I finally grabbed it, my fingers slick with sweat. I fumbled with the switch, my pulse hammering. And then, it turned on. And I wasn't alone. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, shaking violently in my trembling hands. And that's when I saw it. Standing in the center of the basement was me. Or at least, something that looked like me. Same clothes, same face, but the eyes, hollow, empty. And that smile, too wide, too sharp, stretching into something unnatural. It stood completely still, watching me, waiting. I couldn't breathe. My body refused to move. Then, ever so slowly, it raised a hand and pointed behind me. My stomach twisted into knots, my breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to see what it was pointing at. But I had no choice. I turned, and that's when I saw it. The mirror. Standing against the far wall, covered in dust and cracks. My reflection should have been there, but it wasn't. Instead, staring back at me from inside the glass was the figure. The same hollow eyes, the same stretched grin. But this time, it wasn't just watching. It was moving. Its hands pressed against the glass, fingers splayed wide. The surface of the mirror rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. And then it stepped forward. Not in the reflection, not in the glass. Into the room. The thing that looked like me was no longer trapped, and I was no longer alone. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember running. All I remember is the blinding terror, the sheer gut-wrenching panic as the thing that looked like me stepped out of the mirror. The air around it twisted, like heat waves rising off pavement. But the basement was freezing. The breath in my lungs felt trapped, my legs refused to move. And then it spoke. "You let me in." The voice was my own, but distorted, layered, like a dozen whispers speaking at once. I bolted, my feet stumbled as I turned, throwing my entire weight against the basement door. It didn't budge. The whispers grew louder. Closer. I pounded against the wood, my fingers scrambling for the handle. Locked, it was locked. My own house was keeping me in. Behind me, the thing took another step and another. The flashlight in my hands flickered again. The darkness swelled, pressing against me, and then the basement door flew open. I tumbled forward, crashing into the hallway floor. My head spun as I scrambled up, my breath ragged, my vision swimming. And then, silence. I turned back. The basement door was wide open, but the room beyond it, empty. The thing, whatever it was gone. The whispers had stopped, the air was still, and for the first time in what felt like hours I could hear my own heartbeat again. But I knew, whatever had been in that mirror, whatever had stepped into my house, it hadn't just disappeared. It was somewhere, watching, waiting. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I must have called them, but I don't remember doing it. My hands were still shaking when they asked me what happened. My throat was raw, like I had been screaming. They searched the entire house, every room, every closet, every inch of the basement, but they didn't find anything. No forced entry, no intruder, no sign that anyone had ever been there. And yet, they found footprints. Muddy, deep, leading from the attic door all the way down the hallway to my bedroom. The attic I didn't have. The officers exchanged glances, clearly unsettled. One of them tried to pry open the attic door. It wouldn't budge. It was sealed shut like it had never been opened. But I knew what I heard. I knew what I saw. Something had been in my house. Something had walked those halls. And somehow, it had gotten out. I tried to move on, tried to convince myself it was a dream, a hallucination, stress, anything. But then, a week later, I woke up in the middle of the night, my throat dry, my body stiff with unease. I lay still, listening to the silence around me, and then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, right above me. But I don't have an attic. To this day, I don't know what was in my home that night. I don't know how it got in. I don't know where it went. But sometimes, when it's quiet, I still hear the footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving across the ceiling. And every time I close my eyes, I remember that final whisper in the basement. You let me in. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was my imagination. Or maybe some doors once open can never be shut again. So tonight, when you lock your doors, when you check the windows, when you turn off the lights, ask yourself one thing. Are you alone, or is something standing just behind you, watching? If you enjoyed this story and want more chilling tales, hit the like button and subscribe. But be warned, once you step into the dark, there's no turning back. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you heard footsteps in a house with no attic? And remember, not every shadow is just a shadow.